Romans 12 verse 10 says this. It says, "Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves." This second part of the verse is what I'm drawn to the most. It says, "Honor one another above yourselves." That is something that a lot of us are lacking in, and one thing that is very difficult to do. All of our life we're used to putting ourselves first, and that's what the world tells us to do. We're told that we have to work hard to get where we want. We're told that we have to make things happen, that we're in control of our own destinies, in control of our own paths. We're told that we have to focus on ourselves in order to get what we want and to get where we want. But this passage tells us, and God tells us, that our relationships are not about us. It is a surefire way to fail if we perceive our relationships that way. One key example is in marriage, for example. That's more than just your usual friendship, I know, but it is a time where you need to put your spouse first at all times. Yes, there are times where you need to be able to look after yourself, of course, and do things that you need to do to be able to best manage yourself and look after yourself. But one thing that is really tricky is to put the other person first, to make them feel like they are important. And this is one thing that I really struggled with, especially in marriage. I've been married a bit more than a year, so not very long, but already that's probably been one of the biggest challenges that has come up. I've been, up until now, a person that has always been quite introverted, always loved to spend time on my own and go my own way about things. So sometimes it's tricky for me to compromise or change certain things to help my wife out, and that is something that's not easy to do at all. So when a relationship is based on self, when a relationship is based on being inward in everything that we do, where our motivation is, how can my friend help me? How can this relationship benefit me? The whole dynamic changes when we then go, actually, what can I give to this relationship? What can I contribute? How can I be the best I can be towards this other person? How can I love them the most? And quite often that results in really good things. And in a way, in a sense, that's similar to our relationship with God. If we perceive it as, what can we get from Him? What can God give me? How can I benefit from His love? Then He becomes a bit like a magical genie, and it's not relational at all. It becomes, what can God give me, rather than how can I serve Him? So, by devoting ourselves to the other person, and rather than focusing inwardly, thinking about what we can do for them, that strengthens our relationships. That then makes other people more inclined to do the same for us. Not that that's what it's about, but we want to strengthen our relationships by giving, not always by thinking about what we can take from other people. If I go back to the example of my marriage, if I am so focused on myself and focused on my personal goals without considering my wife in everything, without tuning myself to to be tuned into her needs, then the relationship tends to suffer, and we have this disconnect from each other. Not only that, is quite often I don't find what I'm looking for. Is if I'm searching for these wants, desires for myself, I don't find them. And the same, again, can be said of God. When we chase our own desires, there's no, yes, we can find some sense of fulfillment, some sense of purpose, but more and more when we devote ourselves to God, that's where we find our purpose. And that's where we find our relationships blossom, is by fully giving